Hey, everybody. Welcome to My Colorful Journey. I am your host, Hanif R. Jordan, and I'm excited because today we have the most beautiful Kimberly Spencer. She is an award-winning high-performance trauma-informed coach. We're going to ask her what that is all about, too, and trainer. She has her best-selling book on Amazon. She's a co-author of International Motivational Speaker and founder of crownyourself.com. I can't wait to talk about that, really. She is about helping visionary leaders transform their limited stories, building their empire. And we're going to talk about what that means to her, how that has motivated her and driven her for this passion. And let's just dig on in it, right? Welcome, with no further ado, Miss Kimberly Spencer.
Hi, honey. Hi.
Hello. I'm just really thrilled because what catches my eye is trauma-informed coach and trainer. That's deep for me.
Yeah. So
Let's
a lot
talk
of
about
the
it.
clients that I've worked with, they have some sort of trauma in their past, normally developmental trauma, which happens in the imprint period of their life. The imprint period is the age between 0 and 6, where we are just basically unconscious sponges. And we're absorbing everything and learning how to adapt and survive. And why I decided to become a trauma-informed high-performance coach is because I had my own fair share of imprint period trauma. My dad was an addict all of my life up until about 4 years ago. He got sober off of alcohol, and then a year ago he got sober off of all opioids. So there was definitely some learning that I learned early on in my early days, and some trauma that went along with that. And a lot of, especially as a coach, I find that you kind of attract clients that have had similar psychologies or similar ways of thinking or similar experiences as you. And so that's why I decided to really understand trauma and how that impacts our decision making. So one of the ways that it impacted mine was that I was constantly in fight or flight mode, because we have these two parts of our nervous system. We have our sympathetic and our parasympathetic, and they both serve us really, really, really well. The sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight, so it kicks us into high gear, and it's necessary when we are looking to really move fast away from something, or sometimes really move really fast toward a goal. Like, we need it to kick a soccer ball. We need it to run away from danger if we're being chased. Like, we need it to, we sometimes can use it as motivation, but a lot of times it's really great as short-term motivation, but it's not really great as a long-term strategy. The problem was that having grown up in an environment where that constant fight or flight stimulation was happening, I didn't know how to activate my parasympathetic nervous system, the nervous system that is really for the rest and digest. So in an ideal world, we're oscillating back and forth between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Well, what happens, though, with a lot of trauma, if you've experienced trauma growing up,
I have.
we get into fight, flight, and freeze. And so the parasympathetic nervous system, it has a default mechanism that when we're in too much in fight or flight, and our bodies have been so flooded with cortisol, and we've so been in that fear-based mode, well, our bodies, just like any animal that you see in nature, will suddenly shut down, and it'll go into this freeze space. And sometimes that can manifest as looking like chronic fatigue, or sometimes depression. And so being able to understand what our bodies are doing in this space, so that it normalizes those responses, and how this translates into a business atmosphere is a client will go through a period of like really hard hustle, go, push, drive, and then and maybe they'll, make it to the end of the project or make it to the end of that season, and then they'll crash, and then they will have absolutely no motivation, and they may go into a period of depression or fatigue, and they think that like, oh, I've lost my motivation and I don't know why I have no motivation. And from my perspective, I'm able to come in and guide into how do we then reactivate the parasympathetic nervous system to not be in the freeze mode, but to be in the rest and digest mode, so that we can come at it from that perspective. And where my background of having taught Pilates for 13 years comes in handy in that space, because Pilates, yoga, different types of breathing and breath work can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're slowly but surely training the body back into that regulation state, which then allows for the body to then support the mind as well in being able to start finding new forms of motivation and finding that balance and finding that oscillation. And so for me, when I was growing up, I was constantly in fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. So I would go for a goal. I'd go really hard for it. I'd achieve it, and then I would completely crash. And you cannot sustain fear as a long-term motivation strategy. What you can sustain is vision. You can sustain faith. You can sustain trust. But if you've grown up in an environment where that's not really cultivated, where safety is your primary focus, then trust is it's one that I commonly work on with my clients, of how do you build that trust in the relationship with your business? How do you build that trust in the relationship with your finances and with your customers or with your spouse, so that you create that thing that you may have not had as a child? And that's where we then move into those high performance principles and habits. But it comes from looking at what motivation strategy are we working with? Are we working with the fear, fight, flight, freeze? Or are we working with oscillating into a longer-term vision strategy? And how can we use these two motivation strategies and these two biological motivations to be able to really set us up for success, so that we can use fight or flight in times when it's necessary, and in times when it's like, I totally believe in having seasons of push and hustle, but also knowing what's going to come after that and allowing for both. And how do we oscillate and create that oscillation? And so that's where being trauma informed really serves to be able to help my clients achieve that next level of high performance, is seeing how can they use this strategy that they had growing up to keep them safe, to then use it in those periods and in those bursts of energies in the short term, but not necessarily in the long term. And then how can we adapt and re-regulate our bodies to have that longer term motivation strategy that is operating on autopilot, just like fight or flight does.
That's so good, because I'm with you. I think for me, I don't believe fear and faith can operate together, but I suffered from a lot of trauma, and I had to do the work. And I love that you're having them do. I've never heard it the way that you've put it before, but I do believe we have to do the work in order to learn to trust self first. If you don't even trust yourself, it doesn't even matter, and that takes work. You want to make sure you're trusting your decision making and the people that you're bringing in your life, so that when you are in these business relationships or marital relationships, or even your children, you're learning to operate in a sense of faith and trust. Give us what made you, besides what you're going through, what motivated you to really dig deep and do the homework and the work for yourself, to heal yourself, so that you can also help others on this journey?
So I like to think that it's not really new level, new devils. It's more like new level, same devils. So I first started doing this work. I first started doing this work back when I was 19 years old, and I was struggling with back then it was like 8 years battle with bulimia. And what bulimia was for me was it was my form of coping and escaping from the emotions that I wasn't taught to deal with as a child. I saw my dad escape from them. I saw my mom repress and suppress her emotions. So I never was taught any form of emotional resilience, and I didn't really know how to use my voice, express my emotions, and bulimia was how that manifested for me. And I knew that bulimia was a slow form of suicide and that I wanted to heal from that. I didn't want to be bulimic and I didn't want to die. So I started looking and experimenting with different ways of thinking, different ways of being, different forms of exercise. And that's when I stumbled onto Pilates. And I found Pilates and through a friend who was just offered some free sessions to get her certification. And I back then I was my goal was to work in Hollywood because that was the only industry that I saw back then where you could make the income and the impact that I wanted to make. And so I thought, oh yeah, Pilates, like doesn't Kate Hudson do that? And okay, if they can do that, then it's probably a good workout that I could do. And I did it, and within 30 days, I not only saw results in my body, like I saw, whereas compared to I used to go to the gym or to dance class, and I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it, and I wouldn't see the results. But with Pilates, I started to see results, so that was one. And then for two, I actually felt good in my body. For the first time in my life, I felt good, where I was like, oh, I'm feeling toned, I'm feeling strong. And knowing what I know now about trauma, like I was activating and training my parasympathetic nervous system. That's what Pilates and yoga and breath work do, is that they help to train your parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So on a daily basis, I was activating parasympathetic responses, which was actually making me feel better in my mind-body connection. And I said within 2 months, I was like, I have to teach this. I have to help other people feel this good. And that was so great because it threw me suddenly into this leadership role in an industry that I never would have thought I would have been in the fitness industry, because I never was into fitness before that. But my authenticity about never being into fitness was what attracted me clients. And within a year of freelancing, I was the highest paid, most fully booked instructor at the studio that I was freelancing at. And that experience, suddenly I was teaching and I was leading in this place of authenticity where I said, look, I don't have the whole body thing figured out, but I do know this one system that can really support you in feeling good in your body, and it's worked for me. And that's what I started sharing. That's what I started teaching. And through teaching, I was exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of bodies of all different genders and backgrounds and races and diseases and chronic illnesses and back pain issues and all different types of issues. And it's through that experience, I got exposed to then different ways of surviving. So when our brains are constantly wired to look for ways to survive and keep us safe, sometimes we tend to think that there is only one way, like there's the way that we grew up or there's the way that we experience. And so we repeat that cycle. But when you start speaking and talking with and listening to other people's stories, listening to how other people live their lives, listening to other people's thought processes, you start to hear that there's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's just one person's way versus another person's way. And I started what that exposure allowed me to do was shake the frame of my model of the world of like, well, if everybody has a different way that's allowed them to achieve different results, some results I really wanted and some results I really didn't want. But I said, if everybody has this different way, then like maybe we can choose. And that was right at the same time in my acting experience and in my work in Hollywood, that I was being exposed to Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was the first personal development book that I ever bought, which was also the first book that said you can choose your emotional state. And Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning of between stimulus and response, you have a choice.
Yes.
Like these were never things that I thought. I thought I was default, basically like a computer. Like I had my default settings of, okay, this triggers me, this is my response. And I never thought to question, is that the response that I want to have? And so suddenly I was given this freedom of seeing choice in front of me and starting to choose and starting to question my own beliefs in my own mind of, okay, I'm noticing this trigger that makes me want to go throw out my food. Well, what am I feeling? And I started to question those triggers. And within 2 years of teaching Pilates and really examining my mindset and really questioning and allowing for that space of curiosity, within 2 years, I was completely transformed with no psychological or medical intervention from being bulimic to absolutely loving my body and walking in the Miss California USA pageant in a bikini in front of 5,000 people.
Good.
So freaking proud of myself, feeling confident, feeling amazing in my body, and feeling like it wasn't just looking amazing, because I did look damn good, but it was also
I loved it.
I felt amazing, and that was the thing. I remember walking out on that stage and thinking, oh my God, I don't even need these judges in front of me to, I don't even care anymore about the title or the crown. I crowned myself. And that's really where the name of my business came from, even though I didn't start my business until years after that. And what happened was the New Level Same Devil came out in my business after I was bought out of my e-commerce company. So I went from being a Pilates instructor. I had the opportunity to come on for a consulting job for this back stretching device, and I saw the value in this new product that was going to be launched into the market. And I said, I don't just want to be a consultant. I want to be a partner. And my partner said, okay. And I was brought on to this $250,000 startup at 24. And suddenly I was launching a product into the world, a physical product, learning about manufacturing and all these things that I knew nothing about prior to, and I was on the job learning. And I was with that company for 2 years, and at about 2 years, there were some problems just with my business partner. We just had very differing values, and
I understand that. And that happens in business. You just are in different directions. Yes.
And it happens. We just we had the passion for the product, but this is why the values and really understanding what it is that you're creating and what I do with business owners now, I'm so grateful for that experience, because now when I see partners that come to me and they're so passionate about their product, I'm like, but what are the values and what is the foundation that you're building? And they're like, well, it's just a great product. I'm like, that's great, but you are two completely different people that are creating this business baby together, and you might want to have the co-parenting talk, basically.
Exactly.
And how do you want to co-parent?
Because, you have to really iron that out in the beginning. But what's beautiful is you went through that journey. So that experience alone has taught you so much. And I love now hearing your story of why, well, you already answered my question on why you named, your business Crown Yourself. That is gold right there. That is gold.
So
continue.
I was bought out 3 weeks before I got married, literally 3 weeks before I walked down the aisle. Prior to that, when planning a wedding, I was instead of dealing with cake tastings, which of course I went to, but I was dealing with lawyers for the first time in my life. And so suddenly all these beliefs that I had from bulimia of being not enough, not worthy, not capable, not able to fix myself or change or whatever, suddenly all of these beliefs were being brought to light by quote unquote professionals. And so suddenly that, and I don't say quote unquote to demean their professionality or their status as lawyers or attorneys or business owners.
I get it 100%.
I say it because when you are being told something, kind of like white coat syndrome with doctors, which is a real thing, where sometimes you're being told something by somebody who you put in a position of authority, and you accept it as more true than even if you know it's that's not true for me.
Right.
And so for me, that's what I accepted. And I suddenly had all these old beliefs that I used to have around my body that I never, ever had about my business. I always, in business and in my career, I'd always been super courageous, super audacious with my asks. When I wanted to do something, I just went for it and I did it. But suddenly, after dealing with lawyers for 3 months and having this air of authority, like, thrown at me with all these perceptions, and lawyers don't always write the nicest emails. I was bought out, and I was left on my honeymoon wondering, like, what yeah, right? I was wondering, like, unless they're on your side, and then they can write some pretty nice emails. but I was left on my honeymoon with, like, what am I going to do? And I had so many interests. I knew I was interested in fitness and health and writing and creativity and pageants and all these things, but I didn't quite know what that was. And I was brainstorming with my husband, and I just leaped off the couch and I said, crown yourself. And he said, what's that? I said, I don't know, but that's the name of my company. And he said, okay.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
And for a year and a half, I really lived in the same mindset, though, that I used to have with bulimia. I wasn't bulimic. It was now bulimia in the form of finances, in the form of spending, like consuming and then spending and vomiting up more than I had in my bank account. And it was kind of being self-sabotaging in my business. And so all of these old patterns showed up, the blame game, the victim, the comparison. And for a year and a half, I was dabbling in my business really in what I call productive procrastination, where you're doing all the things except for the things that really take courage. Yeah, you know those things. Good. You know those productive procrastination things.
I do. And when you're saying it, I'm like, call it out what it is. I love it because a lot of us in business are doing just that. And this is just such a good conversation, so needed for people in business and just in life, because I see how everything you went through actually birthed Crown Yourself, and you had to go through it because it made you stronger and actually more business-minded in certain things, and you were so able to recognize the things that brought up when you were going through bulimia. And I love how you just said, well, it wasn't physical bulimia. Now it's bulimia in my bank account. That I'm telling you, that's so good. But go ahead.
Yeah, so that's where I was, and then I found out, like, I had the catalyst of, holy crap, I'm pregnant. And that title, I'd been president, I'd had the title of CEO, and I'd owned my own private Pilates studio, and I'd had my own business, and I'd been the president of an e-commerce company, but the title of mom was a whole different ball game. And when I found out that, like, that, oh my gosh, girl, when I found out that I was going to be a mom, I was like, this person who I am right now, the complainy, blamey victim status that I was in, I was like, this is not the person this is not sexy, nor is it the person that I want to be the mother of my children. And I knew I had to fix some stuff fast. And I immediately signed up for a course to get certified in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. I hired my first coach. I put it all on a credit card. I said, well, I'm already $35,000 in credit card debt. I might as well just go $5,000 more. But it was spending from that place of soul instead of from that place of the perception of, let me spend this money to make my business look good rather than having it actually be good. Like, there's a big difference. There's a massive difference with spending money in the things that, like, oh, I'm going to make my business look good. I call it looking Instagrammable, but, like, really on the inside, you're the Titanic and you're going down fast. And,
oh, that's so good. Like, that's so good.
Where it looks really good from the outside. It's a really beautiful ship, but it is sailing straight into an iceberg, and your leadership sucks. And that's where I was. And I was so blessed to know that, to also have the knowledge that I'd reprogrammed this before. I knew I did it with my body, and I knew I could do it with my business and with my bank account. I just didn't know how I did it with my body, and so I needed some guidance as to uncovering and unpacking what those subconscious success strategies and patterns were, so that I could apply those to exactly the form. Because so often, especially, we get our egos love to get caught up in like, oh, this is different. This is business. It has nothing to do with your, other success over here in your relationship or this other thing over here that you've been successful with. And our egos love to play that game with us. And it's your success strategy is your success strategy. And so whatever that is for you, if you've been successful in some area of your life, look at exactly how you think, how you behave, how you show up for that thing, whether it's your body or your marriage or your children or your friendships or your business, and then apply it to that area that's not so good. That's, maybe your finances or maybe your business or maybe your marriage, or you can apply those same strategies to that area that you're struggling with. But the thing is that so often people, especially high achievers, will look externally for someone else's strategy. So we'll look out to the marketing gurus and these people and those people who say, oh, this is the formula for success and this is the formula for success. And all you need to do is have this funnel and build this thing and build your website, and here's all the fancy shit that you don't need. Excuse my language.
No, this is a real show. Like I want you to be yourself, because I believe that. I think we look for that crap. It's bullshit, and it doesn't apply really to yourself. And so what you're saying is just like, I'm so happy we did this interview, because it's the truth. You're not going to find it there. You're setting yourself up.
Yeah, you're not.
Right? And so
you're setting
you're
yourself
just really setting
up.
Yourself up.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, to try to fit yourself into someone else's mold of success. And I have seen this from my clients who are business owners who have tried to fit in, and their audience is they're trying to target literally the exact same person as somebody else, and yet why is their strategy not working? And it's because they are still trying to use someone else's strategy to attract someone else.
Yes.
Versus fully being themselves. Yeah, it doesn't work.
I had to learn that early in my business. And I stopped trying to be everybody else and just be me. Does that make sense? Like I didn't need the approval, and once I did that, things just changed for the better. And so I think, like you said, whatever your success is in that area, you most definitely can apply it to other places in your life that are lacking. That right there was so good. When people hear this show, I hope they take that, because you really have to do the work, right? And you really can apply it to other areas. You and I are mothers. I'm with you. I had to clean up myself when I found out I was pregnant, and I was actually terrified. I was like, "What?"
Oh, I was terrified.
Mom.
Yeah, I was literally.
I got some things to fix. I need to fix my shit. Like I got some things to fix. So yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I think with becoming a parent, it just changes your identity. Like I was just having a conversation, because I'm about to have another baby in 8 weeks, and
congratulations!
Thank you. And I joked that my first kid took me to multi-six figures, and this one's taking me to 7. So
yes, ma'am. Claim it.
Claimed it.
If you don't claim it, yes.
Yep, claimed it. And so I was talking to my husband this morning, and I've been experiencing, and this is just my own personal journey, I experienced a loss at the beginning of this year. My father passed away, and that cycle of, oh my gosh, when's the next, when is he going to fall off the wagon? When is that pattern going to repeat? When am I going to have to step in and save the day? That's no longer a part of my life anymore. And it's very interesting navigating this new space. And I told my husband, I said, I think I'm actually grieving doubt. I'm actually
I understand that.
There's a grief process for who we have been before we were mothers, before we have another child, before we, launch a business. And I said, I no longer have, I think I'm grieving the person who I was, who had the luxury of doubting herself. I said, I no longer have that luxury. I can't. I have that. I have my children, my husband. We're in Australia, living in a foreign country, which was totally the vision that my husband and I set forth 8 years ago when we first got together was to live in foreign countries and have our children learn from diversity of experience.
No, I think that is so dope, really. And also, I lost my mother in 2019. I lost my father years back. I understand that too. Trust me. But I understand her story too. It's so funny because we're similar in different ways. And I understood her journey, finally got it, And so they didn't have the tools that we kind of have. And we're here to break that generational thing so that we can do better with our seeds, with our children.
Amen.
And that's just that, and that's just that. And so I'm even now, I'm an advocate on making sure you're getting counseling. It's nothing wrong with it. And so I do it with my girl, and I got teenagers, and some of the stuff they tell me about myself is hard pill to swallow, but, it is what it is. And I do my best to be better, and I honor their experience with me. And that's something that I didn't get, when I was younger. My voice was shut. So, it was more of a you be a child, you be seen and not heard type of environment. And I never wanted to have my children be seen and not heard because it does something to them later. It just does. This. You understand this, It creates sickness in us. Some kind of way it manifests later. And I just love what you said, the doubt. That's some real shit.
Yeah, that is it. And it's so real. It's funny. I was talking to another coach who's a very dear friend of mine, and she said, when she first launched her business, she thought, I can rough it. I can go live on ramen noodles. I can tough it out. I can get scrappy. And she's like, I can do, $5,000 a month. That's fine. And then she had a moment where she saw her children, and she's like, holy crap, I can't. She's like, because I can do that for me, but I won't do that for my children. And there's a different standard that we set for ourselves, especially as parents. And that's what really deciding is, and of choosing to level up. I hear it a lot in the coaching world of all you need to do is decide. And what decision means is that you burn the boats. The suffix side. I get really nerdy about language, because I've been a writer for most of my life. And I love language, and that's why being an NLP certified coach, it was just I get to dissect actual language. This is sexy for me. And so the suffix side, we use it in homicide. So it means to kill. So when you really decide, you kill off all other options to anything else. So if you really decide to be successful, then you kill off any other option that you are not going to be. You kill off any other option of any doubt, because you said, no, this is my line in the sand. We're burning the boats. Any boat that leads to doubt, or that could be an out, that could be an escape that says, oh, no, it's okay if I don't succeed in this, or it's okay if I don't achieve, it's okay if I don't hit, this income goal. No, you decide, and if you haven't hit that goal, then you just aren't at the finish line yet. You just keep going because you've made the decision that you're going to cross that finish line, and that is in and of itself that it's the decision, and it's being unavailable for any other option. And so,
you're God sent right now. I'm telling you, Kimber. I'm telling you, we're on the same wavelength, because I had to make the decision. That I made the decision that I will not fail at what I believe God placed in my lap. So I have a responsibility as well. And just because I didn't meet the mark maybe this month, or, whatever the case may be, that I'm not at the finish line yet, and that's okay. And I stopped comparing. I think social media has a lot of people comparing. That's not my life. My life is what it is. And there's beauty in already what I have. And so I needed to see the beauty in what God has already blessed me with. And, I also thought, wow, how messed up is it that I think someone else's life is better than what I already have? The nerve of me, right? To think that I have to live like somebody else. The goals, I'm not even giving God the glory that he has blessed me with what I have now. And like I said, you and I have already broken generational stuff. That is something to be celebrated in itself, right? That we chose, that we made the decision not to be that we made the decision to do better and do the work, that we made the decision to live our life the way that we chose to. And I love that you said you and your husband decided to give your children cultural. That's where I'm at now. I have teenagers now. We can go travel everywhere. Like, let's go. That's it. Let's just do it.
Yeah, let's experience the world and learn from that space. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm loving this conversation.
I always know when I make a decision that's like completely soul aligned and when I'm fully backing myself, because invariably as soon as like I'm an internal processor, so I don't share. Like, I disagree with one of my mentors, Brendan Bouchard, on this one, because he's like, shout your dream from the rooftops. And I'm like, yes. And
no, I'm with
sometimes that's not necessarily. Like, I process it internally until I have fully made that decision to cut off any other possibility. And so for me, when I fully made that decision to have my son the way that I wanted to have him, which is natural with no, not in a hospital, no drugs, no nothing.
I just want to know, are we related?
Are we related? Did you do that same thing?
Oh, my God. I'm like, are we related? Because that's exactly how I operate.
Sisters.
I have to do it yes, I have to do it internally first. I hear that all the time. I'm like, that's not how it works for me. I have to process it first, and then, and that's just what it is. And then my husband, girl, I'm about to be 50 next year, but he still wants another child. My goodness. He wants a daughter. We only have sons. But I did say to myself, if that is in the plan of God and he blesses my womb to go ahead and have another one, I'm doing the same. I'm doing a home birth. I don't want anything. And that's why I'm like, what? Is this lady my sister? She has to be. Like, so.
And my husband is 51 and we're having a second child, so it's all good. Like, he had his first, is he 51 or 52? Yeah, he had his first son at 49. I think he was 49 when our first was born, and now he's going to be 52, 53 this year. I'm not quite sure. Math. But
that's okay. Enjoying the journey.
Like, that is, he is a fantastic father. When I first met him, I was like, oh my gosh, that man is going to be the father of my children. That man is baby daddy material. And I
love it.
Snatched that up so fast, claimed it, because that was, and he's always supported me in when he knows that I'm fully decided in something, like that there's no changing my mind. And so as soon as I started saying that this is how I'm having my child, I had family members and people giving me their horror stories and saying, well, what if this happens? And I'm like, thank you. That's great. I'm sorry that happened, or I'm sorry that you have that fear. I just choose not to buy into that belief system. And I mean, I had a doctor that we jokingly called Dr. Always Wrong, because he was like, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, he constantly would come up with this limiting belief of, oh, your placenta's blocking your cervix, or, oh, your son's head looks like it looks like you're going to have a 10.5-pound baby. Like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to have my baby naturally, like exactly like what I was going to do. I'm going to move my placenta out of the way. That's what I'm going to do, and that's exactly what happened. And the same was when we made the decision to stay in Australia. I mean, we were here in March. Ironically, my husband's a voice actor, and so he gets invited to all these Comic-Con conventions. And so I found the universe's sense of humor to be just glorious, that we were hanging out with the cast of The Walking Dead as a pandemic was breaking out. I thought that was really funny.
That's so funny. That is funny.
And so we just
hilarious.
looked around and we saw how America was handling it, and not just handling it from a political or governmental perspective, but from how the people were responding versus how Australians were responding. And Australians tend to have a little bit more of a laid-back attitude. And I said, if it looks like lockdown's going to be inevitable, if we're going to be locked down, there are worse places to be locked down. And I said, we might as well just have the beach as our backyard. So we thought, hey, let's go on this adventure. Let's stay and we expected it to be a few months. Now it's going to be a few years. And we decided to lean in. And my husband and I were having a conversation, and I said, the more I let this idea percolate, the more certain I became that, like, this is what we need to do. And I was at 100% certainty. And I remember we were on a walk, just he and I, and I said, you know, I'm 100% certain that I feel like we should stay. Like, I feel like that is like what I'm being called to do, and where I'm being called to, like, lean in. And he said, yeah, he said he had his uncertainties because a lot of his career was back in Los Angeles with voiceover. And so it would be a shift for us, where, like, it would be all dependent upon me for the most part, until he got his voiceover studio up and running. Yeah. And I said, and so he had a bit of his doubts, but he loves travel, and he loves food, and he loves all of this. And so he said, yeah, I'm like 90% sure. And I said, if you were even 99% sure, we are going home. And he was like, he looked at me, and I said, I need you to be 100% all in, because this is a family decision. And he said, okay. He said, you're absolutely right. I said, but I will honor, if you have 1% of doubt in you about this, then we go home, because I want to make this decision as a family. And he said, okay, and he went off and he thought about it for about an hour, and he came back. He said, yeah. He said, I have 100% certainty this is the right next move. And I said, great. And so we told my parents, who were on vacation, who had joined us for vacation for a few weeks, and that was the last time I got to hug my dad. And we said goodbye, and I didn't know when I would see them again, or if that would happen. I actually had a feeling that I wouldn't be able to, that I wouldn't be hugging my dad ever again. Before he left.
But guess what? You had that beautiful moment of peace.
And we had the peace, and it was beautiful, and it was connected, and he got to be an amazing grandpa to my son, which I was so grateful, because my dad was a testimony for that you can transform at any age, because he got sober at 69 from alcohol, which really was the worst one, and that allowed him to be an amazing grandpa and have, like, the past 4 years of us being able to see him in that role. I was like, I had my dad back. I had, like, the sober dad who I really liked.
We have so much in common. It's ridiculous. But it's my husband's father who has been sober for not with alcohol, but it was more of cocaine, I believe. And so for about 10 years now, but he's amazing. He's been the amazing grandfather. He couldn't be that for his son. But when I tell you, he is like the dopest grandfather.
That's amazing.
Like, wow, and so I know that redemption is there. I know that we have to make decisions to change. And people think it's easy to do, but I'm like, no, it's not.
It takes easier to live in something. Of courage.
Right, it does.
It takes an epic amount of courage to be able to lean in and make those choices and hold those boundaries of those standards, because that's really what it is. It's holding the boundary of, this is what I will tolerate in my life, and this is what I will not. And it's hard to do it when you love someone, but and the same is true as holding those boundaries in your business, of saying, this is a boundary. I love my clients,
but
I had
to learn in my business.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to learn that. And so I teach my children that no is a complete sentence. A lot of times people want us to give no it's a no. My boundaries in my business is just what it is, and there's nothing else I can do. I'm not going to change, because every time you waver, you bend, you lose a part of yourself. And I told my children, like, I'm done with that. No is a complete sentence, bro. That's how I talk to my sons. Like, dude, no is a complete sentence.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And you don't have to justify it, and you don't have to apologize for it. And it really is like, no, or this is a priority, and that is what it is. And I'm okay. Like, I just did a video the other day on parents needing, like, on, at least in my opinion, I believe that you never, ever, ever have to apologize as a parent for choosing your child over something else. Like,
that's me.
One of my clients was Yeah, for one of my clients, she said she was on we were on a coaching call, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's my son." I said, no, you are being a good mom by responding to your child right now. I said, so I want to acknowledge you for that, and FYI, from here on out into the future, into forever, you never, ever, ever have to apologize for answering a message from your child. Now, of course, have those boundaries of like, hey, I'm in a meeting. If it's something, is this urgent? Do you need me?
Yes.
But you have those boundaries and teach those boundaries with your kids, especially as they get older. But at the same time, if your kid is sick, if your kid, like I just had last week I had 3 parents apologize for rescheduling because their kids were sick, and I was like, never.
Your phone's breaking up just a little bit, so I want you to move maybe in a different area. Your phone is breaking up, and I want people to hear what you have to say.
Oh, that
can
is
you hear
just
me?
the
That's
Wi-Fi
better.
then. Yes, I can hear you.
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah, so I just said, yeah. So I just said, never do you ever have to apologize for rescheduling me because your child is sick. Like, that shows to me that you have a priority and that you have priorities and that you have family values. And actually, as a parent, that makes me want to do business with you more, because I know that you have standards and values that you live by, rather than that align with my standards and values. Maybe other people value putting work ahead of family.
I don't, and I never will.
Me.
And I never will.
and I believe that we put that like when you can align with someone's values, that for me that says, oh, this is a person who has values that align with me. So of course I'm happy to reschedule, and if it becomes a consistent thing, that's something that we can have a discussion about of like what's going on. Is it actually a right time for us to be doing this? But if it's a non-consistent thing, if it's something that happens every so often, like that is fine. Like that shows to me that you have priorities and values and standards. Yeah.
That's me. Usually, because now I have teenagers now, but they know when I'm doing, the show, and we have boundaries and we have respect. But if it's important, I'm sorry, I will excuse myself because they need to know that they matter. And when we show our kids that they don't, that everything else takes place, that does something to them, their self-esteem. It just does something. It just starts to create the most toxic thing inside of themselves. And so I love that you have the value of family. Just hearing that about you makes me want to do interviews. And then top it off, the name of my business is The Stylish Momager. I mean, come on, like, I'm talking about being a mom, seriously.
Exactly.
So it really has to be
it's a part of it.
Value. Right. And, I'm with you on that. I do agree with you. As long as it's not a habit, that's something else. That's something that we have to dig deeper. Maybe we're not aligned at this time. That I agree with you. But definitely not I've had to do that too with people. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm like, for what? Because you're being a mom, dude. Like, take care of your child. You know what I mean? Like, I have time. We can reschedule. It's not that serious, And I don't look at you different because I'm a mom first before anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you offer that comfort to any of your clients. Kudos to you, Kimberly. Like, I'm like, oh, I got to get my ass over there to where you're at one of these days. Most of my people that I've been interviewing are from Australia. It's like, God, are you telling me something?
Hey, it's a beautiful country. The Gold Coast is fantastic. I don't think you could ever find a more appropriate place to grow a business called Crown Yourself than in the state that I'm in, which is Queensland. So I'm just like, God had such an amazing, beautiful sense of humor with this one that I was just like, okay, all right, this is exactly where I need to be. This is exactly what's happening, and this is it. And while yes, I do miss my family, being here has allowed me to grow. Like, I just was yesterday driving on the same road that I I dropped my parents off at the airport a year ago, and I was like, oh my God, I have grown a decade in this past year. And it was just, it was a transformative experience to be able to say, like, that changed me, and it was all for the better and all for the best. And so it was just so transformative.
You're such an inspiration. Tell us about your book, because I don't want to forget about that. And I want people to know how can they grab your book on Amazon and also get your services, because, like, if they're listening to this show, they know that you're where they need to be to transform themselves. I really think so. So let's talk about your book.
Yeah, so my book, the one that is an Amazon bestseller, it's called The Start Journey to Entrepreneurship. It's about the beginnings of my business and starting a business and starting Crown Yourself. And it really is about, and it's me and multiple different business owners. There we go.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so it's me and multiple different business owners and that joined together to do this Amazon best-selling book. And then my next one that's coming out is called Rule My Body. It's my first solo book that I have ever written, and it is super exciting. It's going to be coming out this year, and I've been saying that for the past few years, but this time it is real and happening.
It's on its road.
And
yes,
it's on its road. It just needed to take some time to it's my elephant baby. So,
I get it.
But that one really 100%. Is about how I reprogrammed my mindset from bulimia to absolutely loving my body and loving food and the relationship that I have now with food. It's based on several talks that I've given at universities and colleges on how to language your body for success. And then if you want to work with me, then you can just head on over to crownyourself.com and click on the tab that says work with me. If you'd like to jump in on a high performance consult, if you're a business owner and you're like, yes, it's resonated, queen, I want to jump in and see how we can accelerate. Like one of my clients, oh my gosh, she just hit her 1 year goal of income within three months. She now has that amount of income in billed work. So she hasn't closed it yet, but she's closed now 25% of it. And so she already has it in billed work. So I was so excited. So the results that you can have with coaching can just be transformative and can speed up your progress like crazy. And that's my jam. That's my job. That's the thing I love to do. One of my clients joked with me when he first signed with me. He said, if I can get my plane in the year that I work with you, then I will know that it's worth it. And I said, great, challenge accepted. He bought his plane 2 months ago. So that was exactly within the span of time. So
you know what I think why you attract so many people is because you're so authentic and real. And there's nothing fake about you. And because of that, people are sick of the fakeness and selling them dreams. And I just see that. I see that you're just real. You're a go-getter. You don't give up on yourself. That alone is attractive, right? And you made the decision to heal, period. No matter what, it was going to come up, no matter how hard it was going to be. You just did it. And so your own journey is what's so inspirational that will make anybody, to me, want to sign up and be like, help me figure this out so I can be better. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just,
yeah. I mean, that's what I love. It's what I love doing. It's what I love. How I love to serve is really to just help people get through those blocks of resistance of belief and their own fears and to recognize them and move them forward and accelerate them faster. And I know that hitting the gas pedal on your life, especially when you're like, oh my God, am I really doing this? It can be really scary. And it also can, when it's that feeling of fear plus excitement, then that's when you know you're headed in the right direction. When you're like, this is something that is exciting, a little scary because you've probably never done it.
Right.
Maybe that's if you've never done doing a 10K month, they can feel that exciting or eager, or if you've never done, 4 million in sales, that can feel like really exciting and really big and eager, like one of my other clients is doing. So there's the whole range, but it's the same feelings, the same beliefs, and then how do we lean in and then accelerate you faster toward it? And that is my jam. That is, and clear out that clutter and that the generational patterns and trauma that that we can use to serve us instead of holding us back. Like I truly believe that your life is happening for you.
Yes, this is so good. I got to do a part 2 one of these days. Well, I want to thank you.
Yes, for sure.
I'm so serious.
For sure. I would love to come back for a part 2. When my book comes out, I would love to come on for a part 2.
Let's do that. I'm going to hold you to that, to come on. Yes. And I have to get a copy of that book so I can read it. Most definitely.
I will send it to you. You will get it before our next interview.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's where one day I'm going to meet you. I'm going to be out there traveling because I need to see the world a little bit. But I want to thank you so much, Kimberly, for gracing my show, for coming on, speaking your truth, and being authentic, because that's what we're really about. And I just want to wish you the best in your new chapter of life, just being a wonderful wife, accepting love in your life, having your first child and now your second one. May God just bestow so much blessings and glory and just love and mercy onto you and your family. I wish you the best, and I want to thank you. I don't want you to hang up, but I want to thank you for being on. And for my audience, please, by all means, go to her website. Tell them that website once again. Please, Kimberly, I want them to understand they can book you there.
Just go to crownyourself.com. You can go on all the socials and find us at Crown Yourself Now. But crownyourself.com is the hub. It's a place to go. It is my kingdom. You are welcome there with open arms.
Absolutely, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in to My Colorful Journey. Again, I'm your host, Hanif R. Jordan, and until next time, bye.